Welcome, welcome. This is Ocelot of War coming at you for part 6 of our Ostranauts stream. Glad to have you aboard. We're about to unpause, do some last minute repairs on our ship, and get off this rock, which has been our goal since we exited character creation. First thing, I'm going to make sure that I have my helmet on. We've still got this little bit over here where a wall has been patched, sort of a temporary situation. We want to go ahead and repair that. Eats up some resources to do so. And speed this up. Now there's going to be two steps to this repair. One is literally the repair, and then one is doing a certain amount of restoration so that it isn't immediately damaged again. First, we're going to have to go back inside for a breath of air. All right, almost finished with the repair. You see the bar going away there. Now, as soon as this allows us, we can start the restore, which is going to run the bar in the opposite direction. And you can see that we're getting some grain, although we're doing the wrong restoration here. We're restoring the conduit. Nothing wrong with that. That wasn't what I was really after. There we go. You can see why I wanted the better suit so that we wouldn't have to get back to air every minute or so. Basically, when you have the better suit, you can run the entire trip in the suit if you want to. Quick review. Not horrible, not ideal, but I think we're going to roll as we are. You know, you can see if I put the full output on here, we've got enough oxygen, which is the green item. We don't have enough nitrogen in the mix to simulate Earth atmosphere. In fact, what little we've got in here is probably what came out of our suit just now as we took the helmet off. Because we have no nitrogen supply. We've got nitrogen up here to run the thruster as our reaction mass, but we don't have any to feed our atmosphere. So that's going to be one of the first things we want to take care of. Now, to avoid what happened on my first try for this little bit right here, um, I'm going to tell it, no, you cannot open airlocks for now. Because weirdly, when I clicked on this, it decided to walk me outside. What I actually wanted to do was to restore on this. It has very little restoration that it needs, but since it's the single most important component of the ship, with the possible exception of your transponder, I'm going to jump in there and give it a little bit of love real quick. Okay. So it's just walking us through the undocking procedure, which is you reverse to do the comms procedure. So we're on K-leg. We're going to request that they let us undock. We're paid full, so they're going to allow us. The hardest thing here is to not hit the X here, but to skip back over to this side and start operating from here. It's just a standard, WASD maneuver. Now that's pretty brutal. So the first thing we want to do is fix that. This is our throttle right here. And I neglected to sit down my case, which is part of the reason why it's saying I'm carrying too much weight. So let's ease it down even another little notch. Now you see I'm not getting a notification that I'm carrying a load. Let's push it back up a tad until it tells us we are again. All right. And let's see what there is to see out here. Now, the first wreck we get here should be sort of a tutorial wreck that'll teach us a little bit about, you know, how to scrap. So all I've done is click on a wreck at random. Actually, I'm going to jump over to this one. And now it tells me how we're moving in relation to that. Well, first thing I want to do is get my bearing correct. So rotate in order to face that squarely. And the even though the uh, console faces the other way, the airlock is always your nose, which annoys me to the extent that I often, as soon as I get a chance, rebuild it with the console facing the other way. Now we want to correct our sideways movement, our velocity relative. I'm sorry, I don't remember what this actually stands for, but this is the velocity relative, which is how fast we're moving toward it. We want to correct this because right now we started moving away from the station, and that started pushing us sideways versus our goal. And you can see I get a lot more shudder out of it when I'm using the thrusters to the side than I do back forward and backwards. Now, I could go a lot faster. In fact, I think it's going to tell me to. I'm just going to skip this crap. because it's telling me to, well, let's do it. All right. Tap the E to rotate your ship clockwise. Okay, we've already done this. Tap the Q till we're spinning counterclockwise. Hold the R to stop the spin. Thank you, Mr. Otto. We appreciate you diligently saving. All right, I guess bearing isn't horribly off. Let's just go ahead and get this out of the way because it's just going to keep annoying us. Basically, this is the tutorial for flying the ship. We just want that bearing to be as close to zero as possible. It's not going to be upset if we're not exactly on it. Press the S, down arrow key, thrust backwards. Do that toward my target so at least that I'm heading that way. So do a little shake, 180 from it. Now, this is a huge waste of fuel to go this fast. I seldom go faster than 100 meters a second, and frankly, I like to keep it below 50 because you can run into something and not be instantly dead. And one of the big goals of this game is to, you know, not die. Now, once it's slow back down to 10 meters a second, which again, enormous waste of fuel here to undo all that we just did. But in the spirit of things, I'm going to follow the tutorial here. Should be happy now. Right. Which, of course, will naturally put us straight into this ship, which will probably ram us. Fortunately, it looks like he's heading into K-leg. Obviously, this is actually the closest derelict, so which just suddenly appeared there. So let's get our bearing right on that. We're already just over 5 kilometers, which is when we can start docking. So first I always fix my bearing. It's a lot easier to get everything else adjusted right. Come on. Got a little overexcited there. Then your sideways movement. Fix the bearing again now that we're resolved that. And now I think we're actually moving away at a pretty good clip, so have to move this into positive territory. In this close, we don't need to particularly go fast. 30's fine. Pull this down so I don't throw it around. I've been playing with a much larger ship, so I'm a little heavy-handed right now. Okay. Now it should automatically slow us down, which it did. Thank you. Shut that up. Talk to the ship. And here's our docking. Coming in pretty reasonably here. What I'm going to do is actually speed us up a bit till our docking port hits about right there. I'm going to bleed some of that speed off and square us up. And these are just the tiniest little taps. And once you get it where you want it, you'll hit the R key, just like when you're on rotation. It'll sort of kill your rotation or freeze you right there, which was very useful to know. I didn't know that for a long time. See, we're drifting off there. Thank you, Mr. Otto. Kindly saving. You can dock at much higher speed than this, but just to be the consummate professional. I like to be just under 10 meters a second so that we get a nice kiss on the airlock. The clamps on your docking ring engage, and your hull resonates like a struck gong. While your sensors scan the vessel for data, you close your eyes and imagine the fortune that could await you on the other side. Spoiler alert, not going to be any of these things really. Perhaps you found a racing skiff, a nimble vessel with a lightweight hull pushed around by top of the line RCS package and a 4-can Hydra intake regulator. Or maybe you've stumbled on a multi cabin pleasure yacht, an elite catamaran complete with a full bar and corridors adorned with yards of crimson and cream Van Hummel interior. Maybe it's just a dead freighter, a decades old testudo hauler, packed with trash and sporting a giant hole where the reactor used to be. This is a junkyard after all. Whatever it is, you've got access to it now and a bit of time before the security goons harass you. Now, we've actually got a ticket that we found that was still valid, so we shouldn't be harassed, which is why we're out here right now rather than working on the ship a little bit more first and getting a better suit. If you're a salvager, maybe you'll smash and grab rare parts to fence back at K-Leg, cut out whatever you can quickly for a buck, or with a license, trade a bit of profit for less pressure and more resale reliability. In other words, buy a ticket. Well, we found one. If you're a mechanic, you could fix it up, make it fly. Derelicts go for a discount at the shipbroker, and any sweat equity you put into it after you buy it is yours to keep. You could even resell it when you're done for a tidy profit. Or if you're an outlaw, you could always just steal it. Sometimes it can feel pretty good to stay one step ahead of the corporate security games if you're willing to give up docking and control ports. Now, here's the thing. As we step out here, I've got to tell the roster that I can do this. Hopefully put my helmet on so I don't die. Let's remember that's a major goal here, not dying. We can disembark, we can open airlocks. You see, we're now on a derelict. Now, see if we would have found a valid license anyway if we sort of snuck out here. 8:26 with a couple hours on it even. I think we've got more than a couple hours, but not a ton. So let's stick that in our pocket. There's a little battery here. Let's install this conduit. Why can't we? Oh, there's already a conduit there. Do we have a switch that I'm missing? Oh, that's where the conduit needs to go. During long shift, first install on a derelict. Now, typically this would be more appropriate when you actually start repairing one because you've bought it. Since our goal is to get anything off we can Not really apropos, but I'm going to read it anyway. During long shifts spent eviscerating half-dead ships in the boneyard, you often wondered what it'd feel like to do the opposite. Why wrench out the beating heart from a wounded ship when you could just nurse it back to health instead? The question returns to you as you look around this derelict, now through the eyes of a self-employed spacer. The prospect of finding an answer has you feeling like an uncaged animal. The sound of your breathing repeats in your helmet and grows more eager with every exhalation. You set to work, and your tools resound through the hall around you. During idle moments, it's hard not to consider the consequences of installing and uninstalling parts you don't own. Sure, you're in a junkyard, but it's the employer's junkyard. And while they might turn a blind eye to the salvage trade when it suits them, they will bring the hammer down as soon as it doesn't. This goes double if you happen to make a derelict fly. The standard blocks on a nav station are onerous, but far from prohibitive, and clever engineering can take you a long way. Because we were already holding the ticket, we couldn't pick up the. So here is something fun to know. You set your light down, and it lights the area, which is actually also a good way to help you find back your way back to a specific area. Now, since I'd already told it to do this, once I could pick up the conduit, it just automatically started doing what I asked. So it's taught us how to make a door live. Here's one that we can't make live, but we can pry open with our uh, crowbar. Here's one because it's damaged, we cannot, but we could repair it or just uninstall it if we really need to get in there. Now, I'm loving these grates because they match the grates on our ship, which means that we can extend our little porch here, maybe even enclose it pretty quickly, which would be nice. Make it so we lose a little less fuel. Now, the interesting thing here is we can actually just walk around, and there's a crowbar if we didn't have one. Now, also interestingly, you couldn't have gotten to that crowbar without using it, except we're on this ship where this is just an outdoor porch. So I'm going to head back over here, jump inside for a moment, grab a breath, and we're going to continue our exploration. Well, in here, I'm going to set these down. Make a little room. Chair. It's going to be worth something, but not enough to bother with at this stage of the game. The door we can pry open. another thruster, another intake, which is not what we need to fix our atmosphere, another nav station, which we want to get home and get repaired if there's any way possible, because it's going to give us the ability to uh, get a lot of money. Can't just walk around to get into this one. It's broken, so the easiest thing is to do an uninstall. When you're a new character, installing, uninstalling, and repairing doors is it's a good way to grind your skills. It obviously updating your tools so that you've got the best available tools will help as well. But basically at this point, all I'm really trying to do is look around the wreck thoroughly, get an assessment of what's here, and what I need to immediately try to use. Now, because of the sad state of our ship, what we're immediately going to want are anything that expands the ship, even if it's just expanding the outdoor porch. But ideally, we'd like a actual airlock between our cabin and our airlock, so that we can walk in and out without losing all our oxygen and hopefully soon nitrogen on every cycle. That nav station alone should go a long way towards getting us the good suit that we're after as well. Okay, batteries for this lamp, patch. Into motherboard, which I don't think I had in my stores. Buy one when we get back to K-Leg. Definitely want to grab that thruster. Thank you, Mr. Auto. Now that we've done a basically exploration of the wreck, as soon as I get this thruster uninstalled and drag it back to our ship, we're going to put a little cut in here and come back for part 7. Right. Pick her up. a little spit shine on this, and we've got something that we could actually sell, make a little money. What we'll probably actually do is go ahead and install it on our sad little ship so that we get around better. And like I said, with that, we're going to put a little cut in here, take a little breath, and see you in a few minutes for part 7.